Hey, welcome to another episode of Cooking Under Quarantine. And today I'm going to be making an oven roast, and it's one of my easiest meals I make. The entire meal probably costs about 15 bucks and feeds a family of 7 easily. I'm missing my cans of gravy, but we'll do that afterwards. So here's what we have today. We have a 3.5 pound Angus beef top round roast, oven roast. And it's pretty easy to make this. All we're going to need with this is going to be a few carrots. So I have 5 carrots, probably 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, a few stems of celery, we'll cut that up, 1 onion, and about 4 cans of whole potatoes. And the last part we need for that, for the seasoning, is going to be actually onion mix. And what we'll do with the onion mix is we'll coat the vegetables with 1 packet and we'll coat the meat with the other packet. This will cook in the oven for about 350 for about 2.5 to 3 hours. Once we take everything out, we'll take the juices from the pan, put it into a saucepan, and we'll also add a can of gravy that I think I have. Where did we put the gravy? Oh, right here. So we'll just use 1 can of gravy, maybe a little bit of wine. This is a beef Heinz gravy as a base with that natural stock that we have already, and we'll put that all together and make a great gravy, and it will be succulent. If you have anyone over, they're gonna love it, and it's super easy to make. Takes the prep work's about 20 minutes, oven for 2.5 to 3 hours, and then that's it. Make a gravy for another 5 minutes. Stay tuned. Hey, we're back. So what I've done since you guys have been off camera is basically I took the potatoes out of the can, I washed them, I just put them in, I cut up the celery and just cut it in chunks like this, nothing crazy. The carrot, same thing, quarter-sized chunks. Some can be a little bit longer. The onion, I basically cut in quarters, so they kind of look like this, and I just kind of fill them all in. Try to make them as even as I can. The last to go in is the garlic, and for this stuff, I kind of, I don't say it's really coarse. It's kind of chunky, and again, all I'm trying to do is give it a good amount to go somewhere in the pan, so it's spread around pretty evenly. So basically you just have, and again, it's not a secret recipe. This is going to be a world-class meal when it comes out. People will be surprised how easy this is to make and how fast it is. But 4 cans of potatoes, 5 carrots cut in quarters. I think I used 4 stalks of celery, and I had 1 onion, but I added another one because I thought I like a lot of onion. If you don't like as much onion, don't use it. And I had about 8 cloves of garlic. The last part of it is the onion soup mix. And basically what I do is I like to coat the vegetables with one pouch. And this is going to help them brown in the oven, get that nice kind of crispiness to them. And then I use the other one just for the meat. And I'll kind of really rub this in. In fact, really hammer that in and flip it on the other side, so it can cook nicely. Now, all I'm going to do with that at this point is set the oven to, you can do 1 or 2 ways. You can cook this at 325 for about 3 hours, or you can cook this at 350 for about 2.5. I'm going to go the 325 for 3 hours. For this meat, this particular cut of meat, the longer you cook it, the tenderer it is. The slower, like the lower setting, it'll stay tender. If you tend to rush it, it tends to be a little bit hotter. It's still good either way. The kids like it. But other than that, I'm just going to take this and put it in the oven at 350. But before I do that, what I typically do with this is I will take a little bit of wine, and I'll just put a little bit of that in the pan, just in certain spots. This not only helps with the cooking, but later on it's going to help with the gravy, which is what we want. And then we'll use the same wine to make a little gravy. And I'll put this in for 3 hours. And then once that's done, we'll come back and we'll start with taking everything out, cutting up the meat, and then we'll make the gravy out of that. And I'll show you how I do that. And that's the end of it. It is super easy, super quick. A lot of times I'll prep this in the morning After the gym, before I go to work, I'll just prep it, have it in the refrigerator, so when I come home, either me or the boys can just stick it in the oven at 325 for 3 hours, and when I come home, it's just, I just make the gravy and we're ready to go. So we'll see you in a few hours. You can see this thing's ready. It's going to come right out of the oven now, and we're going to get it on the counter, get everything out of it, see what juices we have in there, and start the gravy. So as you can see in the oven, I just pulled this thing out. It is ready, so I like to grab this, just get it off the board, let it rest before I cut into it a little bit, give it 5 or 10 minutes to rest, and then basically just kind of pull everything out of here I can pull out, and try to leave as much juice in the pan as I can, because that juice will then translate into, you know, a really good gravy. So we'll just pull the stuff out. There's not a ton of juice. I should have put more wine in there, maybe halfway through it, and I didn't do that. I'm left to go do a showing on a property, but I think this is going to work. And so what I also have over here is a pan with a little bit of a strainer. But now that I'm thinking, because this was onion soup mix, there's dried onions that are now sort of rehydrated. So I'm actually not going to use that strainer because I want all that to go into the soup. I want everything I can get in the soup. I'm sorry, in the gravy. In the gravy I can get in there. And I could use a spoon, but the problem is sometimes a spoon that I've noticed will pick up some of the gravy too, and or at least some of the sauce. And I need every bit of this, anything I can get out of this, into that pan, because that's what makes this a really good gravy, the actual drippings. If I just put wine in that can of gravy, I mean, it'd be okay, but it doesn't taste anything like when you use the actual drippings from the meat. It makes a difference. And when the kids, you know, when they have this, they always want gravy. And I do put wine in it. That is a Kim Crawford there. That's typically my drinking wine. That's a bay leaf. But because I used all my cooking wine on a lasagna that we made the other day for the sauce, I didn't re-up my cooking wine, which I need to. And I usually buy like a Woodbridge. That's what I find is a really good cooking wine. I bartended, that was our call wine, and it's one of the cheaper ones, but for cooking, it's one of the better wines. Basically, I'm just take this sort of thing I laid here, this tin foil, try just to take it, create some little funnel, and get all that in there. And obviously that helps the cleanup. As you can see, we're going to get some actual pieces of onion in there as well. That's okay though. I will just take gravy. I mean, that's money right there. That what's in there right now, you need that for this. And I hate to do this, to waste this. Oh man, that's a Sauvignon Blanc. Really nice. I'm not a huge wine guy, but when it comes to using it for sauces and stuff, I do. That's only a little bit left. So now I'll put this on the stove, and I'll cook this sort of low at a level. Get it to a boil, and basically what I do is I'll let that let it condense down for about, after it hits the boil, maybe 5-10 minutes. And that's it. That's the gravy. So basically, you just gotta cut this, and maybe I'll do that. I'll cut that in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll plate it and let you guys see it. It's a pen. Okay, so I let the meat rest for 10 minutes. We finished the gravy off. It came out awesome. Actually, better than I thought. There's that real nice wine taste to it. And now I'm about to cut the meat. So it's just rested about 10 minutes, and I like to use the electric knife on this. I also like to use this on chicken and turkey. Obviously turkey uses electric knife, but chicken especially, if you're trying to get that even cut where the skin stays on that strip that you cut off versus trying to push through it and that skin kind of slides down and forces it way down. So I like to use this. It's going to give us a better cut and look more presentable, eat more evenly, go across, because it doesn't push down, it sort of saws it. But also, the same recipe we used here, you can use everything that we just did in the slow cooker. You can do it in the oven, or you can do the slow cooker. It's the same exact recipe. So the potatoes, the carrots, the onions, the celery, the meat, 2 bay leaves, and 2 packs of onion soup mix, and then we'll just add 2 cups of water to that and mix it around and let it sit in there for somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. Slow cooker, but you do need a different piece of meat. This is an oven roast, so it's a little bit different than a pot roast. You could put it in there, it would still cook it, but the pot roast would come out much more softer where you can cut it with a fork. You see it coming. Cut right through this. See how that looks. Alright, there's still some juice in there. Basically what we would do is take those 2 slices, plate it, scoop of vegetables, and that's it. You put some gravy on if they want it, didn't want it, but you can see how nice, oops, sorry, you can see how nice that came out. Sometimes you can throw some green beans in there on the side if you steam them, put them in there. One of the tricks we use with green beans is if you steam them, so they kind of still, I guess, they would be not parboiled, but they'd be al dente. You put a little Italian dressing over it. It's amazing. But this one here is good. This is an easy meal. Give it to anybody. It's going to make anyone who likes meat and potatoes very happy, I can assure you. My kids love it. Anyways, stay tuned for another episode of Cooking Under Quarantine with Deric. I hope you guys like the episode. I'll keep more stuff coming.